Well, hello, online intro to new media class. That's my overly charismatic opening sequence for this episode. This episode is about the changing industries of web television, vlogging, and journalism. But first, we're just going to talk about web television and vlogging because the journalism will come in a separate lecture. But the point of me opening the sequence with overly charismatic open was pretty important because what we're going to be focusing on is how the rhetoric of web video is completely different than that of traditional media. And so this is really our second lecture. And our second lecture is about the changing industries. So we're still in module 1, and there's only one more part after this, which is journalism, which I think is fairly important. These two lectures, the changing industries lecture 1 and 2, are really about what we're dealing with today. And I really mean that, like how we're dealing with media environments of the current present that we don't realize that have been completely affected by the way that media shifted between the years of 2005 and 2010. Those shifts reverberate to today in ways that we see in the background, but we become quite used to those types of effects, and we don't realize that at some point these things had to start. So first I want to start with a little recap of your homework and what you did and on your online identity. You all did a very, very good job of researching yourself and looking at what you found when you Googled yourself. And that's one of the experiments that we do in every single class. We do that on purpose because we try to let you know that there is your identity exists out there that's separate from you in this digital space. And it's important for you to know that that identity's out there so you can A, control it, and B, know what people are looking at, when people look for you. And it really does come down to what are the minimum amounts of information or pieces of data that you can acquire to find out about somebody. Many of you noticed that there was a lot of aggregators out there. Those are the places where you could find a ton of information about yourself if you just pay them a fee. Do not pay them. What it does is it aggregates public information. So all it does is keep a lot of public information in one place. That public information usually comes from when you played sports in high school or you did things that were public, or even taxes. Those are public information, so things end up out there. So don't worry about that. Well, another thing a lot of you noticed was LinkedIn. And LinkedIn shows up near the top because LinkedIn pays Google to have better search results. That's how they maintain that position as a premier service. And you have to remember this, and I don't know if I said it in the last one, but I'm pretty sure I did. But if I didn't, this is important. There's a phrase that we constantly use, which is if you do not pay for it, you are the product. LinkedIn has a premier service, which means you could pay for it, which means there's something about that service that makes it a little more premier. If you do not pay for it, then somehow or another, they're making money off of your personal data. And that's what you see inside of these search results, that your personal data is part of your digital identity. So those are things that you will discover by keeping track of your identity. Now, of course, if you're a new media major, there's other classes like online content production where you make your own website that helps you forge that identity and controls your search results. But the thing we're going to be talking about today, and another shameless plug, is more about vlogging and having your personal identity in visual space, in the video space. And so that's NMD 310, Video Storytelling for the Web, which is our spring class, which basically teaches you how to vlog. It's also what I did in Salzburg when I did my talk. I talked about vloggers and how it affects us. So that's what today's lecture is going to be about. Really, today is about the intersection of identity and television. And that's really important to understand because that's where we are today. For obvious reasons that I don't have to explain, we literally see the intersection of television and politics as a result of our US government. But you could also see the intersection of television and media fixtures as a whole. Who we watch, what we watch matters to how we interact with media information around us. And so today I'm going to talk about how did we get here? How did we get to this point? This is going to result in your homework assignment, which you may or may not like. I don't know. Some of you might be naturals at it. Some of you might not like this at all. For this first one, it's going to be completely private. I won't make it public unless you want me to. You will have to do a vlog. That will be your homework. So I know some of you already just go, oh no. But for the first one, they just go to the homework assignment and I only see it. For the next two, yes, two more, they will be public and you will have to share them with your classmates. So heads up, fair warning. So let me talk to you about what we're going to talk about today. Today is going to require a handful of videos to watch and something to respond to. So you will have to watch a fair amount of these videos and talk about them in the discussion. So here we'll get started. So in the late 1990s, there was a period of time called the dot-com boom. That's when all of the dot-coms had this inflated value that really wasn't worth anything, that gave the web its first real boost. And in the late 90s and early 2000s, 2000 to 2001, there was the dot-com bust. That, along with 9/11, caused the market to literally dip down significantly when the digital era seemed to have deflated because the bubble had burst. All the soft value that was supposed to be real intrinsic value had nothing. So for about 3 or 4 years, there was this development era of media industries and media distribution outlets as broadband, high-speed internet, became more accessible to more houses and more places. And you could see this in the terms of how early social networks like Friendster, Xanga, LiveJournal, and then eventually MySpace became more proliferated into communities. And that is because more people had access through our high-speed access points. The most valuable commodity at the time, and still to this day, was video commodities, the ability to share and keep video online. Now there's an urban legend that there were 17,000 YouTubes before YouTube. What that meant is there was like tons, hundreds of sites, potentially thousands of sites that were there to host video online. And then YouTube showed up. And it's pretty important that YouTube is really the biggest intervention in our media culture to date, because it is really the house and the market for all of our information that is secondary to traditional media setups. It isn't corporatized, it comes from the ground up and is community oriented. On February 14th, 2005, the URL youtube.com was purchased by a team of guys who were ex-PayPal employees, Jawed Karim, Stephen Chen, and Chad Hurley. The three of them purchased this with the idea that they could create a video repository. Originally, the idea was on several different reasons, but one of them was a video dating site. One of them was about finding footage that they couldn't locate anywhere, finding stuff for journalists. They really just wanted a place where video could be kept online. And so they developed YouTube. And on April 23rd, 2005, they uploaded their very first video. And this is what follows.